Today we're talking about the Sony PlayStation Vita, a console that just refuses to die. The PlayStation Vita was a handheld console created by Sony that was set to be a monumental step forward for portable gaming, so much so that it was referred to as the next generation portable before being given its final name.
What you've come to know as NGP, our next generation portable, is officially named PlayStation Vita.
And rightfully so, this console was shown to be powerful enough to run amazing looking games for the time. Keep in mind that the Nintendo Switch wasn't even conceived at the moment. The competitor to this console at the time was actually the 3DS, which showcased significantly less detailed games than what the Vita was offering. This console was so great that it's still being supported today from amazing fan creators, things that range from utilities, games, and even software modifications that make this system comparable to the Nintendo Switch. Definitely an underrated system and something clearly ahead of its time.
But Jared,
I can hear you asking.
if this console is so great, then why don't I hear more people talking about it?
And to that I say,
Sony killed off the Vita before it had any chance to shine in the gaming landscape. This led many people not knowing what an amazing console it is, which makes it underrated. And here are some reasons why.
imagine you're in the year 2011 and Sony is currently hot off the heels of the PlayStation 3's success. You're eagerly waiting for the highly anticipated PlayStation 4 during one of the biggest gaming events, E3. Your eyes squint and adjust to the light. Sony has just revealed their next major system, something that was not the PlayStation 4, but a new portable. A system like this was the perfect thing for Sony to use as a buffer between their latest success and their upcoming next-generation console. Their previous portable console, the PSP, performed pretty decently in the gaming market when it was released, so releasing a new portable that had graphics like this? It was truly something for Sony fans to get excited about, and it was the perfect thing to use to hold people off until the official announcement of the PS4 years down the line. Before Sony decided to announce the PS4 2 years after the Vita, what was the point of this? The immediate reveal of the PlayStation 4 after the Vita was a major turnoff for many fans, especially because the Vita was subjected to being advertised as a companion device for the PlayStation 4 rather than its own system. It was completely overshadowed by the home console. On top of that, the Vita also had a ridiculous price for its memory cards and a lack of software that just turned people away from it. But how did this system recover from such fatal wounds years down the line? How did a system that was criticized for being an overpriced expansion for the PS4 become a viable gaming option for 2022? Well, when Sony completely abandoned the Vita, it was eventually adopted by the community that saw the potential in this console.
PlayStation.
Fast forward to the year 2022, and we have a redemption arc. Soft modders and hackers were eventually the people who adopted this system. Its software was easily accessible, and its hardware provided endless opportunities for all kinds of hacks and homebrew that are just a bundle of joy. With the progress that mods have made over the years, this system is easily hackable and highly recommended for anyone wanting to buy or collect a new game console. It's not even hard to do either. The process has been seriously streamlined, and there are a ton of guides online that allow for easy modding. These mods have only made the system better, and there are no signs of it slowing down. The three main problems with the Vita were its lack of software, the ridiculous price for its proprietary memory cards, and Sony's greed. All of these problems were practically fixed when put into the hands of the Vita community. A mod was created to circumvent the need for an official memory card and allowed for the use of microSD cards. The entire software library was opened up through the use of game backups that could be found online, and Sony didn't support the system anymore, which opened the door for hackers and modders to make this console into an absolute beast. On top of the Vita's base software library, players also have access to Sony's PSP and PS1 game catalog, and with the addition of various PS2, PS3, and a couple of PS4 ports officially created by Sony, we have a console that practically has access to the entire PlayStation catalog. And with it being a portable system, it makes this the most convenient way to experience the whole life of PlayStation, whether the games are old or new. To top it all off, the price of this software is $0. When buying a Vita nowadays, the most you would need to buy is the console and a microSD card adapter to act as the memory card. This by itself only costs roughly $160, assuming you buy a secondhand Vita at a retro game store or your local GameStop.
But wait!
I can hear you saying,
Isn't this illegal because it's piracy?
and to that I say,
If there are no cops around, then nothing is illegal.
Okay, so I know the legality and justification of piracy is a big concern in this instance, but hear me out. Most physical Vita games are either hard to come by or expensive. Getting physical games for a console that isn't even supported anymore can definitely be hard to stomach. So what about the digital store? Well, that's not really a good option either. The Vita's digital store is notoriously buggy and unreliable. It definitely doesn't help that Sony doesn't even maintain it anymore. Piracy is definitely the main road to take here, and it's completely justified. Not only are the games not being sold officially, but buying secondhand copies of these games don't even allow for the profits to go to the original copyright holders, so you know what that means. You get hundreds of quality games for free? So we have a console with a ton of free games. Most of these games are even high quality, dare I say as high quality as something you'd find on the Nintendo Switch or any modern platforms. Speaking of the Nintendo Switch, a lot of its third-party support actually originated on the Vita before being ported over. And with the accessibility of emulators, there's technically better backwards compatibility support for Sony and Nintendo games on this platform than there are for most modern-day consoles. Meaning you don't have to pay an online subscription service to play a lot of these older titles. What a concept. There's also the argument of, why don't you just buy a regular PSP? To put it simply, the Vita is just more powerful than the original PSP. As time goes on, that original model continues to show its age. Also, instead of having one analog stick, the Vita has two. I also mentioned the addition of other software mods and utilities. These things have only made this console better, and in some cases have increased the quality of the games as well as the ways to experience them. These sorts of enhancements aren't usually found on retail home consoles. These sorts of options are usually reserved for PC gamers and sometimes on the PS5 for some of its games. When it comes to these amazing enhancements, most jailbroken consoles come unparalleled to the Vita. Some examples could include connecting a PS4 controller and displaying the Vita screen to a TV using various plugins and, oh wow, look at that, we have a makeshift Nintendo Switch. Modify the internal resolution or frame buffering of certain games, and increase their performance with overclocking to get the most optimal gaming experience. If overclocking isn't your cup of tea, then use the thread optimizer to make your games run better than ever. If you're horny, boot up the random hentai generator. Use the customizable options for PSP and PS1 games to relive memories of your youth. Enable cheats and save states for a wide variety of games. Play Mario 64 with proper widescreen support because Nintendo certainly doesn't feel like doing it. All of this is brought to you by Renegade and The Flow, two amazing developers for the hacking scene on the PS Vita and some of the most well-known people for helping to keep this console alive. Because of people like them, this console is being maintained to this day, and despite the lack of support from Sony, games are still being brought over to this console through ports and fan games. The appreciation for this console has only been growing for the past few years, and it's definitely something to keep your eye out for. The fact that this console from 2012 has enough going for it to be comparable to other modern-day consoles definitely says a lot about the missed potential of it. And these are the reasons why the Vita was such an underrated console. In Sony's history, it's known as one of the company's biggest failures in the gaming industry, being their worst-selling console compared to their other endeavors. But with how sophisticated and advanced the hardware was for the time, it's made a really solid gaming option for budget gamers today. The amount of options there are for playing these various games outshines most modern-day consoles these days, despite the fact that this hardware is technically outdated. It's definitely not perfect. I acknowledge that most of the reason why the Vita is worth getting is because of the software mods, and I also know that other consoles have the ability to be jailbroken. But the sheer amount of options there are on the Vita makes other portable and home consoles pale in comparison to this absolute unit. As I've mentioned before, this console is a powerhouse of various hacks and mods that do nothing more than enhance the gaming experience. Unlike most jailbroken consoles, the Vita has some of the most unique and user-friendly features that would usually be a hassle to use on other platforms. This console doesn't just indulge itself in the needs of gamers and their culture, but it also does a great job of being an incredible part of Sony's history in the gaming industry. It holds its own as an incredible console and represents the entire life and history of PlayStation through its vast software library. And until Sony decides to create a new portable, this console will always refuse to die.